Three.
Welcome to another No Glue Technology video. Today we're going to be gluing up a handy box.
Alright. Alright guys, so can I just get you lot to come down around here? I need you to be watching. It's really important that you have everything here. Come right in, fill in. I will move around here so you guys can sort of move as we need. You need 4 clamps. It's really important that you have the right amount of sash clamps. They're called sash clamps because they used to do the sash windows. And we've got our F clamps as well. You may need 2, you may need 4. It just depends on how well your piece is going to go together and how well it's going to get glued together. Now, mine is a little bit wider than yours. Mine is a little bit, yours is 180, mine's just that little bit wider. It's like that. I'm going to do something a little bit funky with that, and I'll show you what I'll do with that just that little bit later. Now, I've also got my glue that I've sort of left down there, so someone can pass me the glue down. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to move these down here. Now, it's really important that you check it just to make sure there's no, just squeeze it together with your hands. I can see one here has got a bit of a chunk out of that. It's important that I notice that. All I'm going to do is grab my pencil and I'm just going to put a pencil mark around that so I can see that for the future. There's also one over here. Just going to highlight those so when I'm sanding later, I can make sure. So I'm just checking the underside of those as well, just making sure that there's no damage or anything like that, so when I sand I can make sure I get all of those out. Now the next thing I'm going to do is the first one here, I'm going to leave. Then from there, I'm just going to roll them all back, just like that. So all those joins are now facing upwards. Okay, all those joins are now facing upwards. So they're all my joins that are going to go together that I'm going to clamp. And we do that so that we can glue a lot easier. This one doesn't need any glue on it because when that one sits down, it goes straight up against it and there's glue there. Okay? So now you could, if you really wanted to, sit here and put your glue on, get your finger and do each one like that. I always like to just roll my finger along it, just to push all that stuff towards the middle, just that little bit more. Now I could do that, but that's going to take a little bit of time. So all I'm going to do is put those together.
Oh, that's genius.
Now obviously I'm going to need a lot more glue. So I'm just going to make sure. Now it's better off not to have enough to start with. I'm going to sacrifice my rule here. Okay, just sacrificing my rule there. And I'm just going to get that on. And then I can see where I need to put a little bit more glue. Then use my finger to get a little bit more coverage. You need to cover all of that timber, okay? Yes, because the glue does mount up in some areas, when you clamp it together, it will ooze and sort of go all over the place. Now, as you can see, some areas are nicely covered, some aren't. You just got to make sure, and you can sort of feel it, see that bit of there? You can sort of feel it where there isn't enough glue. As long as there is enough glue all over there, nice and simple, okay? A lot quicker. That took maybe a 10-minute job of doing each one, down to about a minute and a half. And then all I need to do is flipping all those edges, and I'm flipping them straight up. Okay, making sure my ends are nice and square all the way. Next thing, I need to make sure that all my sash clamps are nice and even here. Just going to make sure they're... Now I've just used this metal here just to get them up off the bench because they're wider than our trough in the middle here. Okay, I'm going to get my stoppers here. Thank you, Lachlan. Yeah, chuck that in for me. Big shout out to Lachlan. #1 student behind all these other guys.
He's my dad.
That's Ashton. So if you're watching this video, he's a great kid. All right. Now this next step here. This next step is where you need to be really careful. I like this one out for some reason. And then back on. Cool, the school hasn't paid the power bill. So all I'm going to do is I need to make sure, if I just tighten these straight up, because they're being tightened from the bottom, they're going to bow up like that. Now I could counteract that by getting more sash clamps if I put 2 underneath and 2 on top. But because this isn't very wide, I need to support at that end, and it can be quite hard to do that. So all I'm going to do is just squeeze that a little bit, and I'm just looking to make sure to start with that all the gaps, all these joins, there's glue oozing out of all those joins. I'm just checking there's no big gaps or anything like that. So it's all going to come, just in case a piece of timber is bent or warped or anything like that. Okay, I'm just going to then back that off just a little bit. All right, that's all good there. All right, so this next step, if you had some wider pieces, because I have many pieces and they're only 20 mil wide, it's going to make it a little bit harder for me. But if you have pieces that are 50 mil wide and you've only got 3 or 4 of those, what you can actually do is get your F-clamp and put it in between here and just put it straight on that join there like that, and that will keep it from stepping up and down. But because I have so many pieces there, it's going to make it a little bit harder. I'd have to put 10 clamps on each side to get them perfect. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bit of scrap material. Can I have that pile just over there? Just near, yep, those ones there, Amy. That big thick one underneath. I didn't actually prepare these earlier, so that's my mistake. I'm going to need to go and get one more. Let me just go and get one more. That's not very good.
Here we go, professional stuff.
Gotta quickly wait this time. Cut this bit out. Ashton! Let it go, Ashton!
And just getting one more here. Okay. Alright. Now all I'm going to do is those pieces, I'm just going to cut them down on the bandsaw just a little bit smaller than what I need.
Shut up, Sean. The machine's not on.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Luke, shout out your YouTube
Like and subscribe if you like the video. Comment.
Luke, shout out your YouTube channel. Follow Wizzo. Subscribe to Wizzo.
Right.
Gussie Moore.
So I'm going to put them on the inside of those there. Now, because I've jacked them up and they're not sitting straight on the bench, I've got a little bit of a cheater's way here. So what I can do is I can actually put that F-clamp underneath the bottom of my sash clamp. So not only am I clamping them this way, but I'm also clamping them down to the sash clamp. And all I'm going to do is then tighten that up as much as I can. Now you could probably put another 2 in there if you really needed to. Now I'm going to crank these up a little bit more. Now because I've got those clamps in there, that's less time that it's going to bow up like that. Okay, if it bows up a little bit, it's not too bad because we've got the drum sander that we can use. But we need to do that because if we have any bigger panels in your later years, in year 10 and 11 and 12, you need to be able to use this process. Now it's really important that you don't have many steps on your board. So when you run your hand along, you can feel a few steps there, and that's okay. 1/2 mil, that's not too bad, because we've given it an extra 2.5 mil in the thickness of this. We've got to sand it down to get to our 16 mil. Now it's really important, I've already used my rule for glue, is to get as much glue off as you can. Okay, the drum sander does not like the glue. It clogs up the paper on the drum sander, so you need to get most of that glue off as you can. Now you can use a rag, a wet rag, and your rule to get most of that off. Okay. Now with that, you also need to get it from underside as well, because there's all that glue on the underside that has oozed out. Okay, so it's nice and simple. It is a nice process. On a colder day like this, it will take a little bit longer. On a warmer day, you know, it's a lot quicker. Okay, so everybody will need 4 sash clamps and at least 2. Okay, if you've got more steps, you can use more, and you can put them in here and even those up as well. All right, any questions?
No thanks.
No? Ripper. All right, thanks very much.
Like and subscribe!